Shalom and welcome to Ask Rabbi Yom Tov. Welcome everybody. Happy to have you all here. And we got a couple people who are without cameras on Zoom. So feel free to turn on your cameras and be interactive with me. Otherwise, I'm going to quit. Thank you so much. Hey, Ole, long time. How you been? Nice to see you.
Really good to see you too. It's a lovely honor.
Yeah, Hashem. So I felt like my teachings that I'd been giving over every day for years now, I felt like I kind of stopped doing it. And so I realized I want to get back into it. So I thought maybe we'd do the Ask Rabbi Yom Tov type of setup. But I'm only going to do it if it's interactive. You know, like I want to be interacting with people. Just talking into a lens, you know, you got to pay me.
The weirdest.
You got to pay me to talk into a lens, and I'm not sure how much, because I'll probably quit after 2 days of talking into a lens.
It's the weirdest feeling. It's honestly, it's so unnatural.
So unnatural.
I still don't get it.
Yeah, but it's a lot better not being totally isolated. Can you imagine if this virus came in at a time where we didn't have technology, like 100 years ago?
100 years ago, you'd have like the Spanish flu or whatever.
I'd probably become a great Torah scholar, because I would have nothing to do but study.
Nothing to do. You go in a cave and learn all day. There's nothing to do. Why not?
Okay, so let's do some questions. Anyone on Facebook, you can always send in questions. Everyone not on Facebook, we have a chat. So if you're embarrassed to ask or whatever, you can always just send it in the chat. So, Oleg, you got a question? Got to think about your questions.
I've been struggling with this idea that the timing of this event seems perfect. And everything from the creator's eyes is perfect, but obviously this is coming together. I happen to live in Soho, so we've experienced an additional amount of chaos as it relates to the looting and sort of the social unrest that's happening throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I always go back to this thought that it's not about pointing fingers that they should have done something. It's about what I could have done, right? Or what we could have done as a nation of Israelites to possibly have prevented this. And so I'm curious, Rabbi, for your opinion as to what that something could have been, what we could have done to either eliminate the chaos or prevent it or just handle it better now that it's already happening.
Mm-hmm. So I've got a lot of thoughts on the on what's been going on here. One of them is that it seems most likely that the reason they would be working on manufacturing viruses is for war, I imagine. I don't know why China and the U.S. would be in cahoots on such a thing. That seems strange to me, because they're not supposed to be such good friends. I can understand them working with each other for Amazon or something, you know, that we can get our products in 2 days and stuff. But working together the truth is, now that I'm discussing it, I'm starting to realize that I have no idea what that laboratory was for exactly in Wuhan.
Virology?
No, I know it was for virology, but why? Why would they be playing around with bats and all that kind of stuff, like trying to figure out viruses? It doesn't make a ton of sense to me, if not for what is that, biological warfare?
Warfare.
I don't understand why. And if it was for biological warfare, what are China and U.S. doing in cahoots over biological warfare? But I guess maybe it was some kind of pact they had made that they would work on that together. And by the way, I'm not 100% convinced that it's man-made, this virus, but it is a strange one. It seems to be less charged all of a sudden. Viruses don't get weaker. Yeah, they get stronger.
It's weird.
Now, for some reason, in this wave, less people are dying. It's hitting in a weaker way. You know, someone told me, a scientist today told me that they found particulates of other things in it, you know, from the labs. You know, like there was particulates of AIDS in there and particulates of SARS. That other SARS bird flu. But again, I don't know anything about I don't know if that's true. I mean, this guy, who knows where his science came from that he heard that. But that's not my discussion. My discussion is warfare in general. Is how do we look at it, and how do we look at how do we look at cloning? Like, how do we look at messing with things? You know, God gave us a world. Science has done a great job at describing the world, but they've also gone too. Sometimes it's too far. Sometimes it's taking things apart in a way that's unnatural. You know, and even the Industrial Revolution can go too far without all the science. For example, the thank you, Chana. It's called the Wuhan Institute of Virology. By the way, Chana, feel free to type in why, if you know why the U.S. and China were working together there. I'd be interested to know what their goal was, or why they even have a Institute of Virology. Anyway. You know, just the urban sprawl has massive impacts on things and on environment and on species, and the whole food chain gets messed up if you lose a species somewhere, and then all of a sudden you get too much of something else because the species that died needed to eat that stuff, and basically man overly exerting himself on creation, manipulating too much. So, and the nuclear nukes is the similar thing. Is that someone created the ability to create nuclear fission that might have been a clean use of energy that would take minimal amount to power a whole city compared to the dirty, coal or whatever. But leave it for man to attach it to a warhead. Anyway, in 2015, it says the Wuhan Institute of Virology National Biosafety Laboratory was completed at a cost of 300 million. I don't know how to yuan. I don't know how to say that. $44 million in collaboration with the French government, called Siri Lab, and was the first built in mainland China. The establishment of the laboratory was partially funded by the U.S. government and took over a decade to complete from its conception in 2003. The laboratory has strong ties to Galveston National Library in the University of Texas. It also has strong ties to Canada's National Microbiology Laboratory. They were paid, two scientists, I can't pronounce their names, it's a husband and wife who were remunerated by the Canadian government, were escorted from the Canadian lab for undisclosed reasons. So apparently they were in the Canadian lab and were escorted out of there for undisclosed reasons. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, but Oleg, we have people messing with stuff, and a part of that might have had something to do with the riots as well, because the riots, people who didn't have financial padding were hurt particularly bad by the COVID-19, and the inner city world, which can often be a real crime center to begin with, where people are not going within the normal moral standards of the civil trust, which can never be downplayed. We are all, at least before 9/11, we all lived with a certain amount of trust for one another. You guys probably can't imagine this, but I used to get on planes to surf around the world. And if I surfed, let's say Hawaii, which was part of the U.S. officially at least, I never came in with more than a plane ticket. They didn't even ask for my driver's license. Can you imagine flying without even showing ID? I used to fly to Hawaii every winter on we used to use cheap tickets. Sometimes I had a Chinese name. They didn't even look. I had a Chinese name because someone who works in Pearl Harbor, a soldier in Pearl Harbor, gets cheap tickets to the mainland. They had a whole business set up with the surfers to get us cheap tickets to Hawaii. And we lived in an age of trust. And I remember my first flight after 9/11, I was in line for this. And, remember you had to show up like 24 hours in advance to deal with TSA. And I remember going through there, and in front of me was this beautiful African woman with like a beautiful headdress, and she was clearly a very righteous lady, like very shining countenance. And behind her was this Hasidic rabbi, me. And we're getting grilled like we both just, blew up the World Trade Center, the way they were grilling us. And I looked at the lady, she looked at me like, oh my gosh. And she said, she said to me, I said to her, that is the biggest price of 9/11, besides the human lives, was trust.
It is trust.
And so that social trust is a super important, it's an unspoken agreement that we're going to not do certain things. And we're going to pay for our products. So that stuff doesn't exist as strongly in the inner cities. And with Corona, it's, so you got man manipulating stuff. Corona hits. And by the way, even if you want to say it's from the wet marketing in Wuhan, it's still man manipulating stuff, because why are people eating these things? What's that?
Eating bats.
What are we eating bats for? And if you're some caveman who eats bats, fine, but don't bring it to the market.
They eat bats. They eat anything that moves. Bats, scorpions, snakes, all kinds of stuff. They have no whatever concept.
Anyway, but all of this has led to the looting and the further destruction that we're facing. What's interesting to me is the breath thing, and I'm actually doing an entire. I'm doing, this will be a little plug for my Sundays with Yom Tov, there's a breath thing that we started with. We didn't even just start with Corona. There was something even before Corona about breath. Because remember, the I can't breathe is the riots. That's the protest. I can't breathe. Corona attacks the lungs. Mm. And there was one more lung-oriented thing that happened before that. Someone remembers something last winter that had to do with lungs in the world? Oh, the Amazon has been with the year that Brazil, really fell on the job of protecting the Amazon. And to this day, there are fires that are out of control, and they've been taking the Brazilian president to task over this. But what do they call the Amazon? The lungs of the planet. So on the year that hey Barish, what's up? I'd love to see your face even for a second to say shalom. On the year you guys put this together, Oleg, you ever thought about this? You've seen it in the news though, right? What's been going on in the Amazon? Right. It's all part of 2020. Now, they've been burning rainforests for decades, but 2020 is the year that it went over the top, and the world got much more watchdoggy about the whole thing. And so we start with what they call the lungs of the planet. That's the Amazon. And then immediately man messing around with the world, manipulating the world in ways that aren't appropriate. We get the coronavirus, which attacks the lungs. And then the whole world turns to pot over these riots. And, meaning like where you're from, Oleg, and where I grew up in LA, I grew up right next to Santa Monica. It's gone. It's gone. It looks like it looks like, Fifth Avenue. And so, so all this disaster comes all about breath. So breath has to do with desire. In Kabbalah, check this out, the lungs represent desire, and the vocal cords represent emotion. The exits of the mouth represent the intellect. So let's think about this for a second. Desire, emotion, intellect. So you want to see how that works? It's pretty cool how it works. So check this out. If you really have a strong desire for something, you breathe or you get the word inspire means to put air in the lungs, right? Wow.
Oh,
So like when desire hits, hey Alicia, when desire hits, break out a thermometer. So when desire hits, yeah, it's lungs. Like that, like, wow, I care a lot about this. Okay. That's like when you care about something deeply, you're going to take in air and say it. Like let's say you see someone's kid chasing a ball into the street between two parked cars. Yeah. You're going to breathe in before you're going to say something, right? But it's not your kid. What if it's your kid? So you're also going to breathe deep to scream something out. But you'll hear in the voice, it'll be a different pitch if it's your kid. Because there's so much emotion involved. Meaning that what was fear, regular fear, for someone else's kid, for your own kid, has turned to absolute fright. Because your whole life's now flashing before your eyes. So you'll always hear in someone's voice emotion. And people who are good at reading voices, like, for example, investigators, judges, people in courts, therapists who are really good. You're listening to the affect with an A, to how much emotion is involved in the person you're speaking to. Are they some people are disconnected emotionally, and they could be talking about heavy stuff, but they're not relating. Or you'll see them smiling, and you'll hear no emotion in their voice. They're smiling, and they're. Now, what's the mouth have to do with the intellect? Well, think about it. When you make sound, it starts in the lungs. Because, by the way, you're not going to say nothing if you don't desire to say it, right? You don't say nothing until you want to. So that's desire. But good luck speaking without breathing first. You can't do it. The vocal cords only play their song on the exhale, which means you're going to need an inhale to send the air through the reeds, which is the emotions, which then, but you got to break up the sound. Listen to me, I'm breaking up sound now. Well, how am I supposed to do that? So I have to have something to say. My intellect's got something to say. And via my intellect, I'm going to cut the sound up, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm cutting sound. And I'm going to slice and dice the sound with my 5 exits of my mouth, which are the guttural, the palate, the teeth, the lips, and the tongue, which are called the 5 exits of the mouth, which are connected to the 5 final letters of Hebrew, which are the channels through which the 22 letters do all their calculations into our world. So you're built of all this because the crown sphera, the first of the tree of life, the crown sphera is called desire. That's the lungs. Okay, that's the crown sphera. That's the lungs. And the intellect is called Chochma Bina Das, Chabad, Chochma Bina Das. That's the intellect. And then the emotions are Chesed and Gevurah. Yeah, and Tiferes. It's really Chesed and Gevurah, which are the emotions. Chesed is love, and Gevurah is fear. Those are the emotions, love and fear. Okay? The rabbis teach that Tiferes, the middle, is also the emotion of pride, or the opposite, of false pride, which is the Gentile version of humility, to think you're no one. Yeah, that's false pride. So, okay, remember that the Gentile version of humility, false pride, is spitting in God's face. Like every time a Gentile goes into that I'm nothing business, they're spitting in the face of their maker. Oh, God made nothing? Can you imagine being God? Well, thank you very much.
The spit in the face.
God made you awesome. Anyway, so I don't know if you guys were tuned in earlier, but I spoke about the crown at the beginning of Corona, because that is God's desire for the creation. Is the Keter, is the desire for creation. Meaning the attribute called crown is where the 13 attributes of mercy come from. Why? Because God wanted to create a world. But what's the problem with a world? People will sin, and then they'll destroy the world he created. So you can't. It's great that God wanted to create the world. That's Keter is wanting. It's great God wanted to, but the world will be destroyed by sin. So what did God do? He created with the desire 13 attributes of mercy where God will basically forgive humanity as they sin and keep the things going. Meaning you can basically walk all over him. He's like a king who snuck into his own party before it began at the palace, dressed up as one of the, just a regular commoner, only to find that everyone's talking badly about the king inside the party. So they're all at the king's party. They don't realize this is the king. He's in makeup and a costume. And everyone at the party is speaking badly about the king because they don't realize they're talking to the king. And so you are always at the king's party, by the way. So you want to guard your mental real estate. Yeah, no loose clicking on the internet. Okay, guard your mental real estate. Guard your tongue. Guard your ears. What you're willing to hear. You're in the king's palace, and you want to be very sensitive and tread lightly in the king's palace. Now, anyway, but back to the crown. So desire in Hebrew is the word ratzon. And that's where you learn. I'm giving you little excerpts of my Sunday with Yom Tov seminar. So the whole seminar is called The Purpose of Desire. The Purpose of Desire. And because the whole creation's made of that. The Brooklyn Bridge is made of desire. People want to get from Brooklyn to New York to Manhattan quicker. So everything's made. There's nothing that you can ever point to. Your own flesh is made of the desire of your parents for each other. Like nothing is made without desire. And you nothing happens in your life before the desire to have it happen. So anyway, but that's going to be a whole seminar that, please God, is going to be interesting for everybody. It's 4 weeks. It's a whole series. And I've already got all the bullet points. Yeah.
I'm sorry, is it also will?
That's the same word. Will. Same word. Will, yeah. Hebrew really distinguishes desire. In Hebrew, there's over 20 words for desire. It's weird. It's like Eskimos and snow, Judaism and desire. Why? Because you're talking about the essence of creation. Yeah, desire is the essence of the whole thing. So we got tons of words. I had a list running. I don't know if I still have that. Oh, I got Facebook Live going on. I can't check now. But I have a list going. But some of those words are, you probably didn't know some of them, like Yoel, which is a name, Joel. Yoel is want. That's where Moses wanted to stay with his, marry Yocheved and stay in Midian. Yeah. Vayoel Moshe. And Moshe wanted to stay. Okay. And
Interesting.
Ava, and Teshuka, and Ratzon we mentioned, and Kesef, right? Niksov, Niksafti, yeah, Niksov, Niksafti, Kesef is I greatly desired. And word after word after word, we have so many of these words. Anyway. So the word ratzon though is the key of all of them, and that's the word ratz, which is motivation. So like I'm a motivational speaker, and so the root of desire is the root word to run. Well, what does it mean to run? You ain't running anywhere unless you got heavy motivation, right? The only thing's getting you to run anywhere is going to be, you want something badly, you'll run for it. And what's the problem with most millennials today? They don't know what they want. Most millennials don't know what they want, and so they're not running anywhere. So they're just smoking their legal cannabis, which is a motivational killer, and they're just that no one's running anywhere over there. They're just sitting on their smartphones. Corona was a great excuse to never look away from their smartphone, and so
sit in the corner smoking pot.
Right, and so think about it. The word run and desire are the same exact root. So you're only going to run for something you want, and yet, if you don't know what you want, or you've been wanting the wrong things, or I'm doing a whole commercial for my seminar, or you want the wrong things, or you, this isn't, I mean, it's not for a couple weeks. I think it's in 2 weeks because we got to market it first. But if you want the wrong things, or you want stuff your dad wants, and it's not even what you want, you know, but you just spent the last 20 years under his, his ideas of what one should want, which may not even be what you want. And so, yeah, it's not a simple matter, this whole desire business. Not simple at all. And but what happens is, so now back to Corona, is the word for desire is ratzon. And ratzon is reish is 200, tzaddik's 90, that's 290, vav is 6, that's 296, and nun is 50, that's 346. Yeah? 346. So I was thinking, what else is 346? So the answer is Mashiach's 346. How do you know Mashiach's 346? Not the word Mashiach. How do you know? Because 3 times a day, today we said it 4 times because of Musaf and Rosh Chodesh. 3 times a day we say, Umevi Goel, and God's going to bring a redeemer. Yeah? Livnei v'nehem, to their children's children. Lama'an, what? For the sake of Shmo, his name. Now, I'm not going to give you a whole Kabbalah class why Mashiach's for the sake of his name. You guys were thinking Mashiach was for world peace or something, Brothers will walk hand in hand. No one will feel afraid, It's going to be, that too. You'll get that too, but that's not the point. The point of it all was Laman Shemai. Well, I'll give you one line of Kabbalah about it, is that the whole world's made of Hashem's names. And those names, you can't see them since Adam and Eve ate from the fruit. You can't see them. So what do you see instead? You see a lighter. You see an iPhone. You see an iPhone cable. You don't see the name. Yeah? And so, you see lemonade. But where's the name? So you don't see the name. So God, so to speak, is in exile in our world. And he's going to bring a redeemer, Laman Shemo, so that his name can be reunited with our world, so that you can see through the matrix of creation and see God's name in everything. And then no one's going to murder nobody in Brooklyn, because they, in New York City, no one's going to get murdered. You heard how many murders there were in the last weekend? What the hell is going on in that country? So you're not going to kill a guy when he's turned into the matrix of God's names up and down him. You're going to see his names up and down the guy. You're not going to kill. That's killing God. You're not going to kill God, and you're not going to take their stuff because it's their stuff, and you don't take people's stuff. So. Cool, I'm talking Kabbalah, and a guy named Yechezkel Yosef Abulafia got on the phone. Hey, I think that's my student from Tzfat. Is that you from Tzfat? I won't say your English name. Anyway, so Shmo, check out, what's it all for? Laman Shmo. How do you say Shmo? How do you spell Shmo? Shin, 300. Mem, 40. Nun, Vav, 6, 346. So desire, Ratzon, the whole point of creation, the ultimate, the Keter attribute, the attribute of the crown of creation is Ratzon, desire. And the numerical value of Shemo have the same numerical value. So here we were in Corona, the whole world got shut down. And I was saying Aleinu L'Shabeach, and I said the words, V'anaknu korim. And when I went down to my knees, not on the floor, because we only do that on Rosh Hashanah, but you bend your knees for Anachnu Korim, and then you bow for Mishtachavim. So I go Anachnu Korim, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, God has brought the whole world down to their knees through this crown. You understand? Through the Ratzon. And what's the virus called? Corona, the crown virus. And in Hebrew, it's called Kovid, which means honor, kaved, kavod. Yeah, it's the word honor, the honor of the king. The kavod, no matter how you slice it, it comes out to be the keter, the crown, and it's and Anyway, so I'm like, wow, God brought this world down to its knees. Like, for those of you who are more hippies like me, who've like always wondered if the Western society was going to get away with all their shenanigans forever, or is God going to actually cause the judgment? You know, as we say every day in prayer, we say, "Va'alu Moshim b'har Tzion lishpotes ha'esav," and the saved ones will go up to Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Esav, the Westerners. Yeah, are the Westerners just going to get away with this forever? Like, are they like? I mean, how long will they walk all over everything that was good and natural and connective? You know, how long are they going to destroy things? So here they were brought down to their knees. You think we were brought to our knees? You think the Torah community was brought to their knees? We weren't brought to our knees. Where our business is God and Torah, and that has not changed one iota. God and Torah was not okay. We couldn't go to Minyan. But you know,
And not for a second was the.
Yeah, there was no one was missing out on Torah. You know, no one was missing out on their values in the Jewish community. This, if anything, made it easier to connect to Torah and prayer.
100,000.
People bumped up their prayer a lot because, you know, sometimes if you pray with a minyan every single day, it becomes like a conveyor belt. You forget you're doing anything in there. You know, you're just kind of riding the prayer group. And suddenly people were like praying alone. They realized, hey, I'm not even praying. Like, what have I been doing the last 20 years? So it's been only a good thing for spirituality and Judaism. Spirituality in general, it's been good. But so what I wanted to share with you is while I was bending my knees, it took me a while to do this because I was bending my knees in the middle of praying. But when I said, I thought how God's brought everyone to their knees. And I said, oh my gosh, what is the numerical value of Korim? Vanachnu Korim. And I did the math. And the math was Kaf is 20. I'm not sure if I spell it right, but Kaf is 20. Resh is 200. That's 220. Are you doing the math for me, Michael? Kaf is 20. Resh is 200. That's 220. Ayin is 70. So that's 290. Yud is 10. Mem is 40. What did we get to?
40, 10, 70, 220.
No, we weren't at 220. Anachnu korim. Oh, there's a vav. It's kaf vav. Kaf vav, that's 26. Resh is 200, 226. Ayin is 70, that's 296. 296. Right? And then, yeah, that's it. And then 296 plus 10, Yud is 306, and Mem is 40, 346. We're there. Yeah, it's three, to be brought to your knees is 346. The same numerical value of desire and his name, which is the point of it all, is to be brought to your knees. Meaning it's the numerical value of desire, Ratzon, his name, Shmo, and Korim are all 346. Hey, Barish, nice to see your face. They're all, yeah, you heard this one, you heard this share? You heard me give this over before? Or just now? Just now? Pretty crazy, right? You like that, Barish?
Cool, very cool.
Welcome back, by the way. Thanks.
Day 13 of it.
What's that?
Day 13 of quarantine.
Oh, Baruch Hashem, Mazel Tov. So that's where you've been all this time. Mm-hmm. Welcome back. We're really happy you're back. You want to come for Shabbos?
Shabbos this week already?
Why not? You're free. You might as well drink good beer with me.
Sounds great.
Only the finest. So check with your wife and send me a WhatsApp about that. Okay? I was just on the phone with the Rummy quite a bit today. Okay. So anyway, that's basically the idea, what I wanted to share with y'all. Okay, let's get a question. Anyone got a question? Alicia, I like your questions. What do you got? Oh, we see that. Let me check the chat real quick. I see Michael's all over the chat.
Something about the Shabbos.
So you said the seventh day, honor the day, makes it holy, respect all time. The respect for rest, what is a further understanding beyond the application of Shabbos? Yeah, so anyway, resting. So the idea of resting on Shabbos is the you'll notice that the 39 malachas. Barish, tell me if I'm wrong on this one. That every single malacha of the 39 things, meaning that there are 39 principal labors we're not allowed to do. But what do they all have in common? Meaning there's got to be something we can learn from all 39 that God's trying to tell us what not to be doing. So what do they all have in common? So what they all have in common is manipulating matter. Every one of them is a manipulation. Like, for example, in Daf Yomi, we just got finished with 11 chapters of Hotzah. Hotzah is, what's Hotzah? It's one of the 39. It's to move something that was, when Shabbos came in, it was there. And then you moved it there. Meaning you can move stuff in a private domain, but a public domain, you don't mess with stuff. If it's there, you leave it there. Don't mess with it. You know, you can't carry it more than a couple feet in any direction, but don't go beyond that. And don't take something from a private domain to a public domain. You know, it was there at sundown. Don't mess with it. Don't manipulate. Raw food, you're not allowed to cook it. Something off, you can't turn on. Something on, you can't turn off. Okay, everything, the final hammer blow is taking something that's almost ready, but it's not quite ready, but one more hit and it's ready. That's one of them. You know, so every one of these things is a manipulation of some sort. So what is Shabbos? What is the rest on Shabbos? The rest on Shabbos is to take your sticky fingers, your manipulating fingers, get your mitts out of creation for 24 hours. One day where you're not manipulating the world around you. You're letting the world be what it is. Yeah, you got the picture? Letting the world be. Let it be. And then when you let it be, so something amazing happens. So here's the thing: sometimes in my old days when there used to be something called outreach. Remember outreach, Bears? So like 80 buses pulled up to Zion Gate with 500, or 500, like 3,000 secular kids dancing their hearts out at the Kotel Friday night, But anyway, back in the days of outreach, so sometimes I'd walk into a whole room of people on Shabbat, and, I'm supposed to somehow turn them on to Shabbat, and walk into a room filled with people, and I'd say to them, you people, you love restrictions. And, it's a whole American group. To Americans, restrictions are just un-American. You love restrictions. And they're like, no, we don't love restrictions. I'm like, yes, you do. You love restrictions. For example, all the women in this room. Yeah, if you have a boyfriend, would you like him to, if you're eating a meal with him, would you like to restrict what he looks at during the meal, especially your waitress? Yeah? How would you like that to be restricted? And how about the rest of you? You all love movies, right? Yeah. How would you like? Do you appreciate that people turn their phones off? Like, that's a restriction, isn't it? Like, hey, don't restrict me, man. This is America. I want my phone on. In fact, I'm going to be on the phone the whole movie. So we actually love restrictions because listen to this. There's a definition of restrictions most people would never think of. Is restrictions create the environment or the potential for something to occur. You need restrictions for something to occur. So if you look at the studio I'm in, it's covered with restrictors, so the sound doesn't bounce around too much in here. So we really get the purest reading of the piano or the guitar. We want the best as the highest fidelity of sound to hit our microphones here. And so we got to restrict the sound to get the ultimate sound in here. Maybe it's un-American. Should I tear off all the soundproofing here? It's too restrictive, And so we have we have a negative relationship with restriction, but restriction actually is your best friend. Restriction is everything. And also, like, you can't really have a relationship with God without restriction. Like, let's say, for example, no mitzvahs at all. You're just going to meditate. Well, you definitely want to restrict that situation. You don't want a bunch of noise, first of all. You don't want to get interrupted. When I tell my kids it's meditation time, they know they're not coming in. I don't even have to lock my door of my meditation room. I can leave it open. I've already let them know that it's a restricted area right now. So restriction is just anything special requires restriction. And obviously the sanctity of marriage requires tremendous restriction. If you want to have that kind of sanctity between you and your spouse to a point of creating a what's called a mikdash la'at, a miniature Beit HaMikdash between the two of you, well, you better have that highly restricted in how you're interacting with the others, how you dress. Everything should have everything's with the sanctity of the relationship in mind, and that's all restrictions. So we're cool with restrictions. We love to have restrictions on highways. I'm very happy they paint lanes. Lanes are good. I've driven in Mexico with no painted lanes on 5, 6, 7, 8 lane highways. And no lanes. That's crazy. And so lanes. Maybe lanes are un-American. Maybe we should get rid of lanes. So
You should get rid of the dollar bill. It's racist. It's got what's his name on it, George Washington.
Or don't tell me they're going after the bills now too.
No. I said they're all racist. So give me here. If you don't want it, you can give me Franklin. You can give me all of them, and I'll put them in a pile and deal with them. It's okay. What's the next trick?
Do they not have any black people on money in America?
No.
Well, I have a feeling
Okay.
there's going to be soon.
Give it some time.
Yeah. They're going to create a $2 bill.
Or a 3-1.
Yeah. Do they make $50 bills? They make $50 bills.
Yeah.
It's called a fitty. That'd probably be the right bill for that. So, listen, everybody, Alicia, I'm waiting for your questions. You asked all those great Kabbalistic questions yesterday.
Well, I had a question. I actually posted it in the chat. This time it wasn't Kabbalistic.
Oh.
But I was just wondering if you think that that America will be going into a civil war over what's happening.
There's no way to answer that question until the election. So if Trump wins the election,
You'll have a PTSD outbreak.
there will probably be a civil war. If the Democrats win the election, there will probably be a civil war. But if the Democrats win the election, it's less likely that there will be a civil war. There will probably be some radical moments, because those white supremacists are like starting to ram crowds and stuff. So, but there are very few of those people. Most conservatives, why are they called conservative? Because they're sensible. Yeah. So they're less likely to create a civil war. However, the other side seems to have no rules at all. And I really believe deep down, and not just because I heard Candace Owens speak, but I really believe deep down that the Democrats have pawned off the black community for their own selfish ends.
Absolutely.
They use that community and frankly to me it's insulting that they would do that. Our job is to take people who are maybe lower on the hierarchy ladder in America as far as financially or educationally, to raise them, not use them, for your political gains. And anyone with even a medium IQ knows that the more financial stimulus there is, the better it is for the inner city black community. And that's just the way it goes. You want them filling great jobs and getting prosperous, and we're not looking. They don't need more handouts. That doesn't help them very well. Just like handouts. I mean, how good are handouts for you? Alicia, does it help you to get handouts? Is that building your character? Bearish, handouts building you? Yeah, not really.
Awful.
Not really. Handouts don't build nobody. And I can tell you, growing up in a mansion, that only through my father's bankruptcy did I even get to Israel. But growing up like that was disastrous for my character.
This almost destroyed me.
Yeah, and the only thing that's built me was having to be real and honest and and have to develop myself, because they're my dad's money was like wallpaper. You could just cover up anything on the wall with it. You have no idea how many times he bailed me out of things. It was crazy. Even grades, like he literally paid off teachers when I was in all the years, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, he would just pay off my teachers. And because meaning if it wasn't a big surf semester that year, the waves weren't very big, so I did fine. But if the waves were really big that semester, winter semesters, the waves are always bigger, and so my father had to bring out the wallpaper, and cover up that stuff. The one thing that's amazing is about parents with money is that they can cover everything up, but the one thing that they can't cover up is an intimate relationship with their children. And if they don't forge it, the kids, no money can pay for that. That's the heart, not the dollar. Yeah, that's the heart. And if parents can't whitewash that one, that's got to be. And boy, I have seen some kids teach their parents some lessons on that one. Take their parents to task, or disappear for a month and come back a woman. Just anything to get back at their parents. And people really will go after their parents on that from resentment, because by the way, parents think they can whitewash it with nannies and babysitters and just getting their kids kind of covered up, and but kids tend to expose their parents at some point or another. Magazines are full of famous people whose kids are exposing them everywhere, so it's really important that our characters. This is a little different in the observant community. Parents are better at this because the value of family is so high that as much as a wealthy man might have made money the main value, well, it's definitely neck and neck with family. If not even a little behind family. So they do take family very seriously, most of them. But definitely, if you ever wind up helping a kid of a wealthy person, don't feel bad taking a lot of money for it. So because you're considerate truma. I know a kid that was so badly abandoned by his tycoon, mega wealth father, that he only found himself at a possible youth seminar, and he finally discovered himself. And so ever since then, you know what he does? He siphons off money from his father's company and buys scholarships so more people can do the possible you. And he told me once, I said, you're so generous. Anytime I need a scholarship for somebody, you pay it, and it's not cheap. We're talking it's $900 a person. That this guy's forking over for scholarships. And in Israel, it's cheaper, but it's not much cheaper. It's I don't even know how much. I've already forgotten. It's been so long since I ran a seminar, how much they cost. But anyway, so I said, you're so generous. He says, yeah, you know what I'm doing? He says, I'm not getting back at my father, but I'm fixing that so much was lost on his children because of his money, his desire to make it big, that I'm at least saving him, that less children are going to be lost, less people will be lost as a result of his money. Meaning I got lost. I found myself in my mid-20s, and now I'm going to make sure that other people aren't lost, and I'm going to use his money to do that. And so he's helped people in great financial need, he's helped them be, full-on participants of the seminar. No one knows no one knows at the seminar they didn't pay. They sit there like every other businessman or whomever's there, or yeshiva boy in Jerusalem seminar. We're about to open it up again, by the way. Barish, we're going to start Hebrew. We're getting a ton of calls right now for Hebrew. Every day we get a bunch of calls, so it's going to be a little weird, because I don't want a room full of guys in masks. Masks scare me. I don't like masks.
I hate those things. I can't even breathe through them.
Yeah, well, I have less of a problem wearing them than seeing them.
Seeing them is creepy. Everybody looks like they're going to rob a bank. And then you walk into the bank and everybody has a mask.
So I have a real issue with masks, and I believe that the reason I'm so freaked out by masks is because I think my fear of rejection when I was a kid, which I felt unacceptable as a child. That was my belief about myself. Is that how am I ever going to know? How are you ever going to know if people accept you or not? How would you ever know if you're acceptable? The answer is, well, how do they look at you? What's their mouth doing? What are their chin muscles doing? What are their cheek muscles doing? So now I broke through all that, and I created a whole seminar based on how I broke through my unacceptable business. But I can't see people with masks on. I don't know where they're holding, and I feel unsafe like that. Like I'm instantly unsafe with people. And it's really weird because these are my neighbors. Like I know I'm safe with them. I'm living with these guys for 25 years. But I am unsafe when someone's in a mask. I don't know what he's doing regarding me. Now, of course, I know how to make the move from the possible you. I know instantly I can get myself back together. But I'm just saying on a very, a knee-jerk kind of, what's the right word for this?
Visceral.
Yeah, there's a visceral reaction I have, which is unsafe regarding how I'm doing. I'm not safe here in the mask situation. And it's really amazing because I've always had a terrible test around Purim time. Because what happens in Jerusalem, Purim starts like the week before. And people are walking around the streets with masks on. And I get very uncomfortable. And then I start getting this what's the word when you got something threatening? This looming. Purim's looming now. Because there's already people walking around the streets with masks. And there's parties with costumes and a lot of people with masks. And that's the way Jerusalem is, a week before Purim. And I'm like, I have this, dread's the word I'm looking for. I have this dread of Purim. Now, that dread doesn't last that long because I'm smashed drunk within the first hour. And it's like, so it's like, it doesn't matter that much, but it does give me a week of dread before Purim hits until the alcohol starts taking effect. And then I'm like, because we have to drink, inordinate amounts of alcohol as the mitzvah of the day. So then I don't care anymore about the masks, and I still never met anyone who has my issue here, where they're getting this visceral reaction to masks.
It freaks the hell out of me. It is the
Oh, you're also getting freaked out? So me and Michael are getting freaked out.
Buy it for 1 second. When I see people down the street in open, I can understand in the store. Okay, fine. You gotta, fine. But on the street with these Chinese people in their own cars with the masks, it's like they're hiding something and ready to do something. And it's unnatural and it like suffocates you. It's not normal.
Plus, people are breathing their own stuff, their own
CO2.
exhaust. Yeah, but it is a little weird when you see people in cars. They obviously don't understand what masks are for, and then I'm a mountain biker, so I'm out in the woods all the time. And during the closure, the woods were packed with hikers. Like everyone, the way out, if you live anywhere near the woods, is you sneak out of your house, you're in the woods. But many of them were wearing masks in the woods. It's like, no, you don't need a mask in the woods. Yeah, there's no corona in the trees. Okay,
the fear
relax.
is taking over the portion of the brain of intellect.
Yeah. Hey, Rebbitzin, welcome back to Israel. So, yeah. Any other questions? I actually, believe it or not, I have to go to bed at 10 o'clock each night because I'm running the possible from, get this, 5 to 7 a.m. Israel time every day. Barish, I'm running the possible Zoom program 5 to 7 a.m. every morning. It's crazy. That's what I got to do to have a seminar for men in America. So, anyway, so I got to...
That's quite some dedication.
Yeah, I'll say. I never dreamt I would do this. You know, I don't get up that early unless I'm going surfing. Okay. My wife got up with me this morning. It was 4:30. You know, it's pitch black outside. And she's like, we're going skiing? Because that's apparently, I remember we used to get up that early to go skiing, which just seems so strange. Okay, everyone. I guess if you had to drive to the slopes, the only way was to get up that time. Anyway, blessings, everybody. It was great. We didn't have a ton of questions today, but we did have a few, and I embellished quite a bit on those questions. I probably answered a bunch of questions you didn't even have. Okay? Shalom, everybody. Tzlacha. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sure, bye-bye.